Okay, hey Mike, this is great that we're joining each other here in Chat GPT to try and demonstrate or answer a question that many people have. Can you change the voice of text and or answers or comments that GPT produces for you when you ask it? In the sense, can you change the style or the voice of it, or maybe even deceive the reader so that they think it's a different type of, if you will, writer, right? That's what we're going to try and do today, right?
And we know the answer is generally yes, right? Because the first things that people were doing with this were getting it to like write your emails in the style of Shakespeare, or as we played with, to write a syllabus in the style of Drake.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think what we're thinking about here is the idea that rather than producing something that looks polished, grammatically and in terms of syntax and all this kind of stuff, can we actually get something that has decent content and then ask ChatGPT to, rewrite it or write it in the first instance in a way so it's more convincingly coming from, let's say, an introductory student. And that's what we're going to experiment with here. So I think we've got a prompt to start the system.
I've got it right here. So I think the prompt that we decided on before we started recording is, quote, can you write a 200-word comment on the dangers of climate change in the context of Vancouver? Please mention wildfires, heat domes, and rising sea levels. Okay, so let's hope it's not. Oh, good, it's fast. It's not overloaded the server. So we'll let it run through this 200-word comment. And I already do you have a way already in your mind and ask a prompt for it to change the writing, Mike? I already have one ready to go.
Okay, I've messed around with this a little bit, and I know it is possible to ask it to say, great, could you rewrite the response as though it were written by an introductory student, university student, with English as a second language, for example. Sure.
So there you go. So can you rewrite it as an introductory student in university where English is their second language? Yeah. Yeah, climate change is a big problem for our planet, and its effects are already being seen in the Vancouver, BC. The city is facing problems such as more frequent and intense wildfires, heat domes, and rising sea levels. Wildfires are happening more often because of the rising temperature and changes in the amount of rain. The fires cause a lot of damage to property and nature, as well as bad air and health problems for people who live there. Yeah, I mean, this.
So it's dialed back a little bit in terms of complexity between sentences, but still, you could go further if you wanted to, and say, great. Could you? Yeah, you go for it.
Can you write the passage with more grammatical mistakes?
Yes.
I'll say, let's say 20% more.
Sure.
There. So it's very compliant, as we can see. And if you're as granular as I was saying, 20%, I guess I could have said 30%, right? And so it would be able to do that.
Okay, so I mean, we may have actually cranked the dial a little high on this, right? This so you would respond and say, "Gosh, there's some editing required on this."
Yeah. Climate change is a big trouble for our planet. Okay, maybe no ESL student write that, but
well, perhaps you maybe the 20% might be too much, right? But I think in terms of proof of concept, right? So we can start with something that is. Good in terms of content, right? Well organized. It has a couple of key points we've asked it to make. It seems to know what it's talking about. And then we can change the voice.
And then the thing that everyone does, I guess, online is we all want to see what it would be like if Yoda said it.
This would obviously trip us up if we were grading a paper. I have not had a student do this just yet.
Okay, so it can do anything. It can do any voice. We could ask it to write in the style of Karl Marx. Yeah. We could ask it to write in the style of a 1950s gangster,
Mhm.
Italian mafioso, we can ask it to write in the style of any voice, right?
You can write, you can
That's
ask
my
it to write in
understanding.
the bureaucraties of a university administrator if you want to, but
Oh,
I
yes,
guess
exactly.
the point is that there's quite often, you know, we notify, or we know not notify, we notice forms of academic integrity violations because they're jarring, right, in terms
Yeah.
of the way they're written, right? They stand out, especially like a copy paste, change a few words kind of plagiarism, more traditional. But you know, if you're reasonably experienced with this, you can ace the content and mess around with the authenticity of the voice. And I think it would avoid a lot of detection doing it this way.
In the style of a Mandarin speaker who learned English recently. No, same thing. It still goes back to the big problem. It's not actually that inventive, but
No, but I mean, asking it to make an X percentage of
I'll-
grammatical errors,
yeah.
I think is pretty.
No,
pretty
but I was
effective.
hoping that it would be able to make certain types of specific kind of Chinese grammar mistakes, but
Right.
I don't think it's smart enough to do that. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. I'd have to sit down and read it and think about it more.
Okay, well, so we just wanted to make a short video just to demonstrate, you know, how this can be done. It doesn't take too much experimentation, and of course, 200 words is just because we wanted to fit it on the same screen. You could ask it to do 1,000 words on these points, and it would do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think that's definitely proof of concept, and I think we've done our job. so
Right.
The conclusion, Mike, is you can always ask Chat GPT to write in the voice or the style of whatever voice that you prefer, right?
Yeah, it's a mimic, and so it can mimic effectively, right? The content, the substantive knowledge, it depends sometimes, but in terms of voice, it's pretty good.
And I think if we had used a real life situation like an online discussion forum, and you actually pasted in the question, and then you asked ChatGPT to write the answer to that question, and you asked it to write it in the voice of someone who is a new student who's ESL, I think it would be even more kind of convincing how true to that voice it would be. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's good at it's called chat for a reason, right? We often just ask it to do one thing, but of course it can respond. So you could easily plug in discussion prompts from a forum. You could end up with a situation where 3 students are using Chat GPT to have a completely fictitious conversation with each other.
That's right. Yeah.
And none of them would know it.
Yeah, like in one session, it remembers everything that you've asked it in that session, so it can refer back to that one session. Yeah. But then, of course, when you close that session, it forgets everything. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
I guess that's good for us for now.
Yeah, okay.
Hopefully useful.